I've chosen to accept the job elsewhere next year. I'm going to finish what we started. We're going to dominate. I'm going to be here to that end and that conclusion. And then when that conclusion, we will move on. It's been 4 or more African-American head coaches at the next level that has been terminated. I haven't heard not one other than a candidate like myself to replace them. So to me, that's a problem that many don't think about, but that's a problem. If someone don't step up and step out and hold it down for us, there's a problem. And many of detractors, I guess they don't understand college football consists of 70% African-American. I don't care where you at. It just happens to be more at a HBCU. But it's not like I'm not gonna speak into the lives of young African-American men and women alike, because my challenge is still to provoke change no matter where I am. And I'm gonna be me. I'm 55 and I don't plan on changing no time soon. God made me like this, and I think God is pleased with what he's created. This is probably the toughest moment for me ever because it involves y'all. And I never would have thought at this time last year when I was laying up in the hospital dealing with these blood clots, getting 2 toes amputated and the sides of my legs cut out, that I would be in Colorado in this beautiful weather, this beautiful place, this beautiful city, which is virtually crime-free with over 36,000 students and a fan base that just won't stop. Don't you ever tell me nothing that God
You should
can't
never
do.
have said
This
crime
is
free.
flat out.
You came from Jackson, Mississippi. You can't do that. Just say if it's a case of you needing the money was too good and you need it. Just say that, because everything else is hypocrisy. Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Over the weekend, Houston police, and we're going to get to Deion in a moment, Houston police announced the arrest of a man who allegedly shot and killed Migos' star Takeoff. And we're going to have those details. Also, as voters go to the polls for Tuesday's Senate runoff in Georgia, Herschel Walker has a beef over vampires and werewolves with former President Barack Obama. And on Twitter, racism has increased exponentially since the takeover of Elon Musk. But first, the hot topic. Deion Sanders, and joining us is none other than the Twitterverse man himself, Anthony Tillman.
Accepted formally. I'm sure you've read about it. The head coach.
Gosh, guys, y'all heard Deion's speech. But before we get to Deion's speech, let me just tell you what a couple of people tweeted that I found to be interesting, if not on point. At Jesse Washington says that, and I'm quoting his tweet: "If the destination was Florida State or another top echelon team, I'd get it. But Colorado? That cheapens what Deion Sanders built at Jackson State and sends a message that a bad football program at a white college is better than the best HBCU. This ain't it, Prime." And then at Dr. Carrie Yashid writes, "The number one problem HBCUs have is the retention of quality faculty and staff. They come, they build great programs, and for various reasons, they sometimes leave. People keep saying Deion can help HBCUs more by going to Colorado. Unfortunately, that's not how this works." And this platform from Councilman _J Rand. He says, "Y'all talking about Deion. What about kids like Travis Hunter, who completely redirected the course of his life because he believed in what Deion was saying, only for him to leave at the first opportunity thrown his way? That's where my problem is." And finally, at Woods _PJ on Twitter, he said, "What this man is talking about is the dream Deion sold these kids on HBCU culture. He convinced them to turn down multi-million-dollar facilities, I should say, stadiums and TV exposure to come to essentially high school 2.0. He ran what looks to be a con on everybody." I know, Austin, you have a different of a thought on that, and let's go to you first with Deion Sanders.
Well, thank you, and good morning, Stacey. Good morning, Anthony. Good morning to your viewers. Yeah, I mean, I really can see both both sides of this. I'm trying to see both sides of this with Deion Sanders. I come from a family of HBCUs. I finished HBCU, my mom, my dad, and my two sisters. So, we know firsthand the importance of historically Black colleges and universities. Um, but I don't think that anybody can question Deion's commitment to HBCUs. Florida State University is an HBCU. He did accept a position to coach for 2 or 3 years at an HBCU. And I think it's commendable that he did come there in the first place and remain there for I don't know, for 2 or 3 years. I wish he had stayed longer. I wish he was not going anywhere. But I think we also have to look at, if we're going to be critical of brother Deion, we have to also be critical of other, football giants, football greats. Maybe not on the same level of Deion, but Black football players who retire and just go off into the sunset and who do nothing with HBCU, don't visit HBCU, don't volunteer their time with HBCU, don't do anything. So I'm really trying to see both sides of the issue. To be clear, I wish that he was not going. I wish that he was going to finish out his career as a coach there. But I also understand that he may be looking down the road, and this was a career decision for him to better position himself to become a Black coach in the NFL. And as he referenced in his commentary, there is a shortage.
Yeah, it is a shortage. Anthony, your take on Deion taking the money and run.
Well, I think it's a bigger picture now. So I kind of agree with Austin a little bit, but I will say that he has to prove his worth now. He has to prove that he's able to recruit and retain quality football players at any level, especially from high school. I think he has to make the fact to be known that he's able to recruit and do this anywhere, not just what he's done at Jackson State. And I think this is his time to shine on making that happen, because honestly, let's be real, only 50% of people make it, within to that professional league. So he has to be able to do that at any level. And we know that he's in a good position as being a coach for one university, and especially at HBCU. But can he bring that level anywhere? And can he bring that recognition to Denver? And that's what we're going to be watching, because at the end of the day, his assistant coaches have a job. You know what I'm saying? His staff, he's gonna pick people that's gonna, succeed him and be able to do that. But and also another thing we're not looking at is will Jackson State still continue to win? You know what I'm saying? Because what he set there is a standard, but are they continuing that standard? Will that HBCU still become relevant once he leaves? And what will happen with Denver? Because honestly, I don't think he's going to come to Denver with the same, staff, the same team, and the same mindset of where he's been with Jacksonville.
Yep, that's a very good point.
But Austin, what about the kids? Somebody made the point. I read the tweet earlier. You walk out on these kids. You bring these kids in who otherwise could have gone to and did the same thing he's doing right now, right? Pretty much have the best of the best facilities and everything else. And I understand money. David Youngblood mentions Deion was making 300 versus, he says 7. Actually, it's 5 million with a potential of a 40% increase if he meets certain milestones. But you sold them on HBCUs. Your whole thing was, HBCUs can be just as good, if not better, than PWIs. And 2 years into your deal, you go. And now, granted, again, had he just said, "Look, the money is too good to pass up," I can deal with that.
So let's assume. I think it's safe to assume that money was a key factor here. Had he come out and said that, would that have really made much of a difference? Would that have made these young brothers that you referenced who came to Jackson State University because of Deion, would it make them feel any better? It wouldn't make me feel any better. I would. So that is just but it's not unlike you know, people, when he was a professional football player, I think we was the Cowboys. I'm not a big football fan, but I do believe he had spent some time with the Cowboys. You know, players being recruited to play with the legendary Deion Sanders, and then he and then he leaves and goes to go to another team. I think there are some similarities there. I would hope, though, that yes, indeed, there are some, you know, young brothers who are crushed, who are crestfallen because of his decision. And I would hope, I would think, I would expect Mr. Sanders to remain in touch with those young men, to continue to be a mentor and a friend and a unofficial coach to the degree he can. And just switching gears, and we talked about this briefly before, you know, be careful what you ask for. Because, you know, I'm just wondering, you know, now he's going to Colorado State. Will he have the same flexibility? And you talked about this, Stacey, before the show. Will he have the same flexibility that he had before?
He will be Deion Sanders and not Coach Prime. I guarantee you. And the first misstep, it would be not ready for prime time.
First one fired. Exactly.
Yeah. Dr. David Childs writes in that he's disappointed with Coach Sanders. He is sending the wrong message to Black culture and HBCUs. He says this sets us back. We need leaders to step up. I liken it to this, and some may say it's extreme. I liken it to the fact that had Martin Luther King left the civil rights movement after the "I Have a Dream" speech, marching on Washington, that's how I liken it, and that's where I'll leave it. So, I mean, come on. It's just ridiculous in my opinion, but I'm not Deion. Nobody's offering me $5 million. So, you know, money does, as they say, it does talk. It's very powerful.
And I also believe that in order for we as, you know, Black people to make change in all aspects of profession, including NFL coaching, which I think is where he wants to go. I mean, you have to have a seat at the table. You have to be in the room, and there is indeed.
And there's but Austin, let me say this: that's true. But here's the problem with having that seat. Certain people having that seat, they get that seat and they block the door for everybody else.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's
let's also talk about this though. His son, you know, attends Denver. You know, and of course he also announced that his son has to earn that quarterback spot. So, you know, is the table set, or is he going to have a little trouble, you know, getting that silverware on there? Because, you know, if his son not proving himself, and as he doesn't have that same level of power as he did at Jacksonville, you know, last year he made some good things happen at Jacksonville with the resources that he had. Now, I don't know if he's going to have that same resources at Denver, because it's a different structure. It's a different ball field. So we're all talking about the money, but the question is, you know, does he still have the same talent as he have at Jacksonville State? You know, because Denver not going 11-0. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of who the coach is. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about what's really going on here. Is it are we talking about prime time, or are we talking about the team? You know, because we have to set that money aside for the talent. We never really talk about the talent that you have. And Deion making $5 million, but his assistant coaches are already set. So are they making things happen? You know, with the talent they have, or are they bringing someone that they expect to bring more talent to? That recruiting effort is what they're trying to focus on with Deion. They think Deion is coming in to recruit high quality HBCU players from other, you know, universities to Denver. That's what we're focusing on right now. His recruiting and retention, because he already started his list of who he wants to bring there. So let's be real. He's already coming in that door with potential.
Yeah, well, Paris Brown of the Baltimore Times writes in on a bigger issue. She says, we need the resources at HBCUs to keep this type of talent. It is inspiring to have that type of talent at an HBCU. HBCUs put out some of the very best talent, no matter what field there is, not just in the country, but in the world. And she's absolutely right. We hear all this lip service about getting resources to HBCUs. It's time. It's been time for action on that. And guys, we got to move on. 1 month after the killing of Migos rapper Takeoff, the Houston Police Department finally arrested a suspect, Patrick Xavier Clark, who's 33 years old. Over the weekend, Chief Troy Finner said that Takeoff was not the target of this shooting. And so, it's really a senseless death. And it keeps happening. But in this case, guys, he wasn't the target. A lot of the hip hop icons and artists that we've seen shot and killed, they were the target. Takeoff was not, and Quavo's wasn't the target either.
Mm-hmm. They never are. I mean, most of the time, one thing these new rappers really have to stop doing is this whole attention. This whole beef for attention. Where right now we live in the social media age where people know where you are at all times. You sharing your location. Often you're out and about but you're causing destruction, everywhere you go. You're beefing with people. You're setting this tone of find me. And of course, I'm not saying that this is what Takeoff was doing, but I'm just saying every rapper should be more mindful of the type of attention they're getting and the safety that requires that attention. I remember a few years ago we was talking about Chris Brown. Someone broke into his house, and we was had a trend on Twitter about his the way how anybody can just walk in his house.
Mm-hmm.
The memes was happening, and I think these rappers and artists need to be more mindful of their surroundings and really the type of security that they need. It's because you're blowing up, you still need some kind of security. I saw J. Cole at an airport with no security.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But J. Cole not rapping about shooting, killing people either. So,
yeah, there's a difference, right?
Yeah, it's a difference, you know what I'm saying?
But you know what, too? You make a great point. And I think, Austin, it is a great point that these artists, particularly hip hop artists, where they're at all times. You don't know where Paul McCartney is. You don't know where, nope. Bono is or the other guys are. And I think there's a parallel there, too, because saying that, I'm thinking about when John Lennon was killed. I remember being, born in New York, raised in New York. When John Lennon was killed, that dude, David Chapman, knew exactly where Lennon was going to be, time he was going to be. He had studied him and followed him. And so that was before social media. Now with social media, you instantly know where these guys are because they're tweeting it all the time and they're, Instagramming it all the time. It's Austin. It's a real good point that Anthony brings up.
No, I couldn't agree with my young brother more. These young stars, young entertainers, especially rappers, need to be more cognizant of the danger, frankly, to themselves and to those around them. The fact that you saw this young brother Anthony at the airport with no security, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, to me, it's almost like, God forbid, you're asking for something to happen. You're daring for something to happen. But it also points to a broader issue of, black on black crime and senseless violence in our communities where, our young brothers and sisters see the need to address issues, to make a name for themselves, to get attention by shooting individuals, whether it's a specific target or whether it's an unintended target. I just think that we also have to look at the broader issue of senseless crime and why our young people see the need to always turn to violence to make a point. And it's even worse, regardless of whether your target is intended or not intended, you have left behind grieving parents, you've left behind grieving children, grieving relatives, etc. So the pain continues for this young brother's family and for far too many. There was young 7 to 8-year-old, Stacy and Anthony. You may have read about this in the papers here in DC. I believe it's in Southeast DC in the last 2 or 3 weeks, where she's sitting on the porch with her mother and a stray bullet hits her. So again, just sad.
Brown is tweeted that it's pretty much what you said. She says we have lots of deaths in our community, of which children and other members of the community are not targets, but are victims of senseless violence and disturbed mindsets. It's a problem for sure. You know what else is a problem, Anthony and Austin? Twitter. The use of the N-word has increased threefold in the first full. It was the first full week when Elon took over, and it continues to grow more and more, as well as it's homophobic, transphobic, and anti-Semitic slurs have increased significantly. There's a poll also showing that pornography has increased significantly. Anthony, what's going on at Twitter?
I mean, freedom of speech. You know, he thinks that freedom of speech is outgoing. He thinks that that's going to save the world. Freedom of speech will not save the world. I mean, honestly, you can't bring back Kanye and then hear what he has to say and then ban him again, because you already knew what he was going to say. You shouldn't have brought him back in the first place. You can't bring all these people back, you know, and expect them to be different. You know, you Trump will never be different, regardless if you bring them back or not. You know, freedom of speech works for government. That's why they try to work so hard to defend it, because it's always taken, you know, it's always taken over. You know, when people have what to say, what they want to say, then things will happen. And at the end of the day, we have to be mindful of how people are in real life, not just on social media. So, you know, and that's the biggest issue right there.
Well, and you said free speech, Austin. He's saying free speech, so it makes you wonder: are people this hateful overall like that? Where this is going on?
I think so. Unfortunately, I think so. I remember, I guess I first read about Elon Musk being interested in taking over Twitter. Was it, you know, late winter, certainly early spring of this year? And I remember feeling a tremendous sense of relief when it looked like he was not going to, that the deal was not going to go through. And then a couple of weeks ago, feeling a tremendous sense of, trepidation when it was indeed back on the table. And my main concern then, my main concern now, with what Anthony referenced, Trump. I was just thinking of Trump and all of the manifestations of hatred that this presidential candidate, Republican presidential candidates, represents in America today. So I'm not surprised that negative tweets against gay men have shot up tremendously against Jews, against blacks. I mean, wow, 202% for blacks compared to 61% for Jews, and 58% against gay men. Yes, Brother Stacy, I think unfortunately this is where we are, and this man is going to continue to use this vehicle to darken America.
Well, and Paris Brown, again, she says the poll is reflecting Twitter's leadership. David Youngblood says that he's not on Twitter anymore. We keep hearing a lot of that. I'm not on Twitter, and people are jumping ship, Anthony.
Well, they're leaving and they're coming back when they think it's safe. You know, one thing we would not do, especially Black Twitter not going nowhere. And I say this all the time. Black Twitter will wait to the end and have popcorn and still joke around about leaving when everybody left. One thing, we can't go nowhere else. Instagram has become horrible. Right? Instagram is horrible. No. We're not going nowhere. We're staying on Twitter. Instagram is horrible. Facebook is not the same as Twitter. There's no other platform like Twitter. I don't care what your fun is, where you like to go. But at the end of the day, when every platform shuts down, you go on Twitter to find out why. You go on Twitter to talk about it. When Instagram goes down, you go on Twitter to talk about it. When Facebook goes down, you go on Twitter to talk about it. When when any platform goes down, you go on Twitter to talk about it. So we have to be mindful that regardless of who the CEO is or who the owner, Twitter not going nowhere. Hey, Washington Commanders are still playing football with Dan Snyder still as owner. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we're going to still continue to have fun. We're going to have fun, and Black Twitter is going to take over because Black Twitter don't need to be verified to have fun. You know what I'm saying?
And you know, those figures that state that you and Greer just showed of you know, forms of hatred that have increased. Those numbers are going to double in each of those categories when Trump makes his return to Twitter. To me, it's just a matter of time. Honestly, I'm surprised that he's taken so long, but I have no doubt that when he thinks it is convenient and politically beneficial to him, he'll probably keep Truth Social, but Truth Social does not compare to Twitter. So once he returns, these numbers are going to drastically increase in the three categories that you and Greer have here, as well as in a whole host of other categories.
Well, you also know over the weekend, Trump called for the abolishment of the Constitution. There's a guy running for president says, get rid of the Constitution.
And where is the outrage?
Right.
Over that. Where is the outrage from the political base? I was watching with the Fox Morning political show on Sunday mornings yesterday, and you know, Mike Pence was on hemming and hawing and, you know, dancing around the issue of Trump. And at the very end, the moderator asked him, if Donald Trump would ask you to be his running mate, would you do it? He would not answer the question.
Wow.
He would not answer the question.
That's the Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz stuff over again.
Goodness
grief. But you know what? Bigger question, guys. Are we living in a time where Black people are simply justifying our own oppression? Because we see that with Stephen A. Smith justifying Jerry Jones's situation, and of course Herschel doing what he does. You know, he's doing his best Ben Carson, Clarence Thomas impersonations, and you know, you got the Candace Owens of the world out there. Are we living in a time where Black people just simply are justifying our own oppression?
I think we've always been in that time where you've had Blacks to justify their own oppression. I don't think that this is. I think it's different now because we have, you know, social media. But there have always been Uncle Toms from the beginning of time, and there will always be Uncle Toms like Clarence Thomas and Herschel Walker and
it's been so many of them, Austin, and like Greer was saying, Kanye praising Hitler, and we're talking about folks with, and she's like, think in my head, with and without money. I was going to say the same thing. We're talking about folks who you know, who have lots of money and folks who don't have any money. They're justifying this stuff.
I mean, you got to realize that, you know, Britney Spears had 14 years of censorship, you know, censorship for herself, but no one has thought about what Kanye needed these past 5 years, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just, you know, it's just, we have to be mindful of how we're helping each other. You know, Kanye, everybody, you know, we still never get over racism. We will never ever get over racism in this world, and of course, it's here to stay. Just like we will never get over people's, you know, feeling of racism. You know, we're banning books in schools. We're trying to erase the past and set a new future, and you can't do that. You can't have a future without recognizing the past and this emphasis.
You mentioned Britney Spears, and I'm glad you mentioned Britney Spears in that situation. Does Kanye have anybody who can do that, declare him, you know, to be mentally unstable, which we know he is, and put him into a conservatorship? Because look, we've been talking about this for a while. This guy is about to be broke, not just broke in a millionaire or billionaire sense, but broke, if not on his way to killing himself or somebody else.
Yes.
This is a situation. It's right for the public to see that you got a guy who not only are they're already taking all his money. Adidas got $220 million lawsuit against him. The IRS $175 million. Kim Kardashian just got awarded $200,000 a month in child support from him. And Balenciaga and all of they took away that billionaire status in a hurry, quick, fast, in a hurry.
24
and said he was worth about $400 million, which is a whole lot of money. However, everybody else is coming for him. Where's the conservatorship, guys?
Well, Kanye, one thing Kanye will always have is, that status, of being a celebrity, being a public figure, and regardless of if he's broke or not, he will always have that.
But he's
way.
killing any type of profitability. Nobody wants to even touch him. There's no corporation or any. He won't get any sponsorship. Forget about walking down Fashion Week and all that stuff. That's gone. He
doesn't care. He does at this point. Kanye doesn't care, and the people in his circle are really, that's the people that you have to be mindful of. You always have to be mindful of the people in your circle, because those are the people that's telling you, that you're not doing well. And of course, him and Kim did the best she could. And I don't know, from my understanding, she did, but I don't think she did enough. I think, that taking the kids away, and forcing him into that environment where he had to defend himself, it put him further in this transition of just mental breakdown. And I think right now he's in a mental breakdown, and hopefully somebody, can get to him before it gets to that point where he's actually doing more. And of course, Elon banned him from Twitter again. So, he's still talking on IG. He literally just did a post yesterday, now blaming Elon for this, all the issues, talking about he's Asian, and then, like I said, man, Kanye just needs to
let me
take
tell you something.
a break.
As much as I have so much distaste for the Kardashians, if I am Kim, and I never ever side with her on any, I don't care. She could tell me that the sky is blue, the sun is shining, and people will say, yeah, it is. I will have to see it for myself. I just, there's nothing about her. She can make it as much as she wants. Nothing about her will make me give her a second look. But I will say this: Kanye is dangerous. I would not allow, and I think this is going to come next, I would not allow my kids around Kanye West if I'm Kim Kardashian.
No. It's quite sad and painful to witness, the downward spiral for years of this young brother. But at the end of the day, as with all of us dealing with the trials and tribulations of life, none of us can want more for Kanye, or Ye, or Ye, whatever he calls himself, than he wants for himself. I mean, at the end of the day, he has to it appears to me, if he hadn't hit rock bottom, he's damn near close to rock bottom, but he has to make a decision. Enough. Mm-hmm. I've got to turn my life around, and he can. I don't know that he will ever have the same status with endorsements and all that he had before, but he's still one hell of a musical genius. He's still one hell of a musical producer. If he would just decide to focus on that and let go of all of the other crazy nonsense. But to Anthony's point, to your point, mentally he's not there. And I believe that those people, and I believe that everybody in his inner circle, I believe that most people in the inner circle are trying their best, but he's just out of control.
Well, all of this too that we've seen over the last couple of months, Anthony, it's without provocation. This guy, again, as Dave Chappelle said on his Saturday Night Skit, he tweeted one night he was going DEFCON 3 on the Jews. Exactly. He didn't say why, anything else. And then he woke up and he certainly did and hasn't stopped. Mm-hmm. Unprovoked. There's nothing to suggest that, this guy was, as he kept saying, I'm a billionaire. He was all of that.
Gone.
It's gone. But nobody, it seems like no one was doing anything to him, not at least from what we could see publicly, maybe privately. I don't know. We don't know. But all of this was like self-inflicted.
He a danger to himself, and he needs to get help, and he needs to, as Brother Austin said, he needs to get back to the music. He needs to get back to what makes him happy, other than his his demeanor of just trying to, prove a point. I think his mental is getting in the way of his ability to just, be a free thinker. I think that's what he wants, to be a free thinker. He wants everybody to just, fall be a victim of what he giving out. And we're
Well,
not going to be a victim of that. We're going to just continue to support Kanye only through his music.
Mhm,
Mentally,
mhm.
I will never, support Kanye through his words, but I will continue to listen to a Kanye song when it comes on, and that's the only support he getting from me, is when that radio hit the song. As
You
soon as he
jamming,
start
you
talking,
that's
as
jamming.
soon as
it.
he start talking, I'm hitting the mute button, whoop,
Well,
and that's
well,
it.
listen, and real quick, because we're gonna have to run, but we got to get to this. You talk about committing Kanye. Somebody needs to commit Herschel Walker to about 12 years of education, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Because that should be his sentence for all wrong. But his stupidity is beyond, you can't, it's not no way to excuse this guy. Now we got the whole werewolves and vampire thing. He went on Fox News and was mad at Barack Obama. He says Obama did not tell the whole story when joking about comments that Herschel made. He says, I don't know if you know, but vampires are some cool people, are they not? But let me tell you something that I found out. A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know?
Thank
I
you.
never knew that. He said, so I don't want to be a vampire anymore. I want to be a werewolf. Well, it prompted Obama to say, since the last time I was here, he was in Georgia the other day. He says, Walker has been talking about issues of great importance to the people of Georgia, like whether it's better to be a vampire or a werewolf. This is the debate, Obama said, that I must confess I once had myself when I was 7. It's just, this guy is as ignorant as they come. And at first, did you ever get the impression at first that maybe some of this was just him acting? But if you got that impression, you must be convinced now. There's no act. This guy is a complete one. I'm gonna go Barrington on him. 100% idiot.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not pretending to be dumb. He is genuinely, authentically. He earned his dumbness, and it's
A degree in dumbness.
I just can't. I mean, I just like Anthony. I just want to push the mute button whenever he comes on television. No, he's an absolute embarrassment. I can't believe that he thinks that he is qualified to be in the United States Senate.
I don't think he thinks he's qualified.
Exactly. Well, point taken. How it's beyond crazy, and he's just an embarrassment to the race.
He's obviously an embarrassment to his own family. I remember his son was like, look, I don't want nothing to do with that dude.
Right. At the end of the day, he has the mindset of a 7-year-old, and I think that's where one thing I think we all can agree is that he's not qualified to be a senator, regardless of what he says and what he does. Is that that if you're supporting him, you just don't support the democratic process, or just the process of just electing your officials with the quality and professionalism they deserve to
Good
be in
point.
that position.
Good point. And the fact that the Republican lieutenant governor of Georgia, came out, before cameras or in an interview and described the pain and the agony of being in the voting booth and not being able to pull the lever or check mark, whatever they do in Georgia for Herschel Walker, it's very telling. But even that, when you're a public official, regardless of your political party or political persuasion, first and foremost, your responsibility is to the people, in this case, the people of Georgia. And I think it was an absolute cop-out for this lieutenant governor to walk out of that booth and not cast a vote for Senator Warnock, regardless of political persuasion.
Well, Lynn Carter Stewart is asking, she's writing in, does Herschel even have a high school diploma? Well, they want him because they'll dictate to him what to agree with. That is, we sick boss. You know, it's just that. It's Paris Brown says, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Tomorrow, we will find out if Georgia is going is going for ignorance or what. I mean,
hopefully not. Hopefully Georgia will be smart and realize that we have to pick the right person for that position, and regardless of how you think of any of the candidates, you pick make the right choice, regardless of your political preference. You make the right choice on behalf of your state. And I think we all are hoping that that the Georgians are doing the right thing and not picking stupidity over the most qualified candidate. And I think that's where we always have to believe in our democratic process and the right to vote, regardless of who you vote for, because it's been a lot of stupid votes. So we can't really justify those actions of how people vote. We just have to always hope and pray they make the right decision when they get to that polling booth, that affects themselves.
Yeah, well,
amen, young brother. Amen.
Anthony Tobin, the photographer, journalist, photojournalist extraordinaire, I should say, for the Washington Informer. Of course, Austin Cooper, Our House, DC, and the Washington Informer. Always appreciate you guys. They are the creme de la creme of the Black press. We love them. Thanks for joining Let It Be Known. We'll see you tomorrow.
Holla.